Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a definitive guide from the Go Digital world on building a connected digital marketing operating system for 2026. Look, if you've been relying on a grab bag of random, disconnected tactics, a social post here, an email blast there, you already know it's getting way harder to see actual results. So we're going to dive into how to shift away from those failing methods and build a modern framework designed to actually drive revenue. Here is how we'll break this playbook down step by step. First, the 2026 marketing reality. Then, working backward from revenue, mapping the customer journey, nailing the deliberate channel mix, scaling content and measurement, and finally, your 6-week launch roadmap. Let's jump right in. Section 1. The 2026 marketing reality. Stop the grab bag of tactics. So it turns out there is a massive difference between a strategy and a plan. Your digital marketing strategy, that is your entire operating system. It's the absolute core framework that connects all of your efforts, your positioning, and your data right back to business outcomes. It answers the fundamental why and what. Now, that's very different from a digital marketing plan, which is simply the how and when, basically just your day-to-day execution. You literally cannot have a working plan without that operating system running in the background. Think about the stark contrast between how things used to be and where we are now. The old playbook, relying on third-party cookies, blasting broad retargeting ads, obsessing over ranking #1 on Google, is effectively dead. Instead, the 2026 reality is a whole new ballgame. It is driven by strict privacy rules, AI search overviews that hand out zero-click results right on the page, and deeply, deeply fragmented user attention. Honestly, showing up in an AI summary now matters just as much as a top search ranking used to. Because attention is so fragmented out there, you've got to be incredibly intentional. Before you touch a single campaign or write a single ad, you have to be able to answer 4 core strategy questions in just a single sentence. 1. Who are you trying to reach? 2. What exactly do you want them to do? 3. How will you reach them? And 4. How will you know it's working? If you can't answer all 4 of those, put the credit card down because you just aren't ready to spend your budget yet. Moving right along to Section 2. Working backward from revenue, which is step 1, set measurable objectives. Think about how this usually goes. Most marketing plans start with someone in a meeting saying, hey, let's run some ads, or we really need to post more on social media. But this framework completely flips that logic on its head. Everything actually needs to start with one foundational question. How much revenue do you need marketing to generate? So the secret sauce here is working backward. You literally start at the finish line with your hard target revenue. That's step 1. Then you look at your historical or industry expected conversion rates. From there, you calculate the exact traffic or lead volume required to hit those conversions. And finally, that tells you the budget, time, and tool investment required to make it happen. It takes marketing from a hopeful guessing game and turns it into predictable math. All right, Section 3, mapping the customer journey, or Step 2, audience and personas. Now that we have the math, we need to talk about real people. Modern personas cannot be based on stereotypes or guesswork anymore. They have to be built from real CRM data, actual sales conversations, and website analytics. More importantly, customer journeys in 2026 are completely nonlinear. Customers bounce around between devices and platforms constantly, so you must pay the absolute closest attention to the transition points in their journey, like when someone reads a blog but doesn't open that follow-up email. Why does this matter? Well, because fixing those specific transition points is where most revenue quietly leaks away. Patching those leaks often lifts conversion way more than launching an entirely new channel. Which brings us to Section 4, the deliberate channel mix, which is Step 3, choosing channels. Look, a massive mistake brands make is trying to be everywhere at once. You shouldn't do it. Instead, filter every single potential channel through 4 strict criteria. Number 1, audience presence. Is your customer actually hanging out there? 2, competitive intensity. Can you realistically earn their attention? 3, content fit. Can your team consistently produce what works on that specific platform? And 4, measurability. Can you track real revenue contribution, not just vanity metrics like likes and shares? Here is the harsh truth. If a channel fails 2 of these, it's just a distraction. Drop it. Once you've picked the channels that do pass the test, you need a budget balancing rule to maintain stability. And this setup is brilliant. You dedicate 65% of your resources to proven organic and paid channels that you already know convert. Then you intentionally carve out 25% for emerging platforms that are showing some promise. Finally, you reserve 10% for genuine, high-risk, high-reward experiments. This specific ratio is what keeps your revenue grounded and safe while making sure your brand never falls behind the curve. Next up is Section 5, Scalable Content and Measurement, covering Steps 4 and 5. If channels are the roads, content is the vehicle moving people down them, and the absolute best way to structure your content is through a pillar cluster strategy. This means you create one highly comprehensive guide, that's your pillar, that links out to related, deeper, more specific posts, which are the clusters. Structuring your knowledge this way builds massive authority. It proves to traditional Google algorithms that you're an expert. And, maybe even more importantly, it feeds modern AI tools exactly the structured answers they're looking for. Now, to ensure this whole ecosystem actually scales up, you have to build a strict metrics hierarchy flowing from top-level business revenue all the way down to operational velocity. Also, this is absolutely crucial, you have to abandon last-click attribution. That's the model that only gives credit to the very last thing a customer clicked before buying, totally ignoring the messy, nonlinear journey we just talked about. By shifting to multi-touch attribution models, you get an honest, data-driven picture of how every single piece of content actually contributed to the final sale. And that leads us to our final stop, Section 6, your 6-week launch roadmap. So, how do we turn all this abstract theory into immediate action? With a highly structured 6-week rollout. Week 1, you hit the ground running by clarifying your KPIs and foundations. Week 2 is a reality check where you audit your current performance. Week 3 is all about setting up that data tracking. Week 4, you're improving messaging and landing pages. Week 5 is dedicated to testing that messaging. And by week 6, you lock in your budget and scale the proven levers. It's a precise, no-nonsense sprint from chaos to absolute clarity. While you're running this playbook, you absolutely have to stay ahead of the specific trends shaping 2026. Here are the key takeaways from the source. Leverage AI securely as your back-end infrastructure for things like predictive analytics and workflow. Just don't use it for gimmicky, unedited content. Adapt your SEO for zero-click, AI-summarized search. Shift your strategy entirely to first-party data, meaning the emails and phone numbers you actually own, because relying on third-party cookies is a total dead end. And most importantly, avoid channel obsession. A shiny new platform will never fix a weak foundational message. I really want to highlight this incredibly powerful quote straight from the text. Confusing activity with impact creates noise, not growth. Let that sink in for a second. Posting constantly, testing every new channel, and sponsoring every event without tying those actions directly back to your business KPIs, that is just creating noise in an already loud digital world. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I have a question for you to reflect on. Where is your current marketing strategy leaking revenue right now? Is it at a hidden transition point in the customer journey we talked about? Maybe a lack of proper attribution? Consider grabbing the free marketing audit mentioned in the source material from the Go Digital world to identify those blind spots. It's time to stop the leaks, build your true operating system, and finally start driving real, measurable growth. Thanks so much for joining me today.